What if I told you that the world you experience every single day, it isn't real? Well, not in the way you think it is. What if the vibrant colors, the sounds, the very feeling of the world around you isn't something your brain receives, but something it creates? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the mechanics of your mind and explore an incredible idea. You don't just see reality, you are actively building it every single second.
So here's where we're headed. We're going to start with a simple, common glitch in your perception, something you've definitely felt before. Then we'll meet the bouncer inside your brain that decides what gets your attention. After that, we'll see how our own beliefs can literally write our life script and dive deep into the wild theory that your brain is a full-on reality simulator. We'll even ask if we're all living in our own private worlds. And then, most importantly, we'll figure out how to go from being a passenger to being the architect of it all. Let's get into it.
All right, first up, the reality glitch. This is where we first start to see the cracks in the idea that we're all seeing the same objective world. Think of it like finding the first loose thread on the fabric of your own personal matrix. Let me ask you this, and be honest. Have you ever been thinking about a new car? You pick the model, the color, and then bam! All of a sudden, you see that exact car everywhere. It's on the highway next to you, it's parked down the street, it's in every other commercial. It feels like the universe is screaming at you, right? Like there's been some sudden explosion in that car's popularity. Well, the truth is way, way cooler than that. The number of cars hasn't changed at all. What changed was your brain.
This weird feeling actually has a name. It's called the frequency illusion, or if you want to get fancy, the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. It's a cognitive bias where the moment you learn something new or something becomes important to you, your brain starts pointing it out everywhere you look. The funny name, Baader-Meinhof, actually came from a guy in the 90s who heard about this old German terrorist group, the Baader-Meinhof gang, for the first time, and then immediately heard the name again from a totally different source. He thought it was a huge coincidence, but it wasn't. The world didn't change, his brain's filter did.
So how does this actually work? Well, it's this powerful 1-2 punch from your brain. The first punch is selective attention. Look, your brain is getting hit with millions of bits of information every second. It can't process it all. So when you decide that new blue car is important, you're essentially handing your brain a search warrant. You're saying, hey, flag this for me. And then the second punch lands, confirmation bias. Your brain loves to be right, so every time it spots that blue car, it gives you a little jolt of, see, I told you, they're everywhere. This reinforces the idea, which makes you notice it even more, and you get stuck in this feedback loop that creates a totally convincing but totally false reality.
And this whole filtering thing, it isn't just a mental quirk. No. It's hardwired right into your brain's hardware. So let's go meet the bouncer standing at the velvet rope of your consciousness.
Okay, just try to wrap your head around these numbers for a second. Every single second, your senses, your eyes, your ears, your skin, are taking in about 2 million bits of information. But your conscious mind, the you that's aware of things, can only handle about 120 bits per second. So what happens to all the rest? To that 99.999% of reality? It gets filtered out by this amazing little network of neurons in your brainstem.
This gatekeeper is called the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. Its job is to decide which tiny fraction of that sensory data gets a VIP pass into your awareness. But here's the crucial part. It is not a neutral bouncer. Not at all. It actively looks for stuff that you've told it is important. It's what creates the frequency illusion we just talked about. It also manages how alert you are, and this is huge. It works with your brain's emotional centers to prioritize anything it thinks is a threat or is important to your goals. It literally sculpts the world you experience based on what you believe, what you want, and what you fear.
So we know our brain filters what we see. But now, let's look at how that internal filter can actually spill out into the world and change what happens to us. This is where we stop just filtering reality and start actively writing it. The big idea here is something called a self-fulfilling prophecy. It was first described by a sociologist named Robert K. Merton way back in 1948. And it's a situation where a belief, even a totally false one, makes you act in a way that causes that very belief to become true. Merton's classic example was a bank run. Let's say a false rumor starts that a bank is about to go broke. People hear it, they believe it, and so they all rush to the bank to pull their money out. Well, no bank can handle everyone withdrawing at once, so the bank actually fails. The prophecy, the fake rumor, created its own reality.
This whole thing works because of a powerful feedback loop. Let's walk through it. Step 1, you have a belief. I am definitely going to bomb this job interview. Okay. Step 2, your behavior changes. You might not prepare as much because, hey, what's the point? Or maybe you're just so nervous during the interview that you stumble over your words. Step 3, the outcome. Because of how you acted, you don't get the job. And finally, step 4, reinforcement. Your brain goes, see, I knew I was going to fail. That proof makes the original belief even stronger for next time. The thought created the outcome.
Now, this is where we have to make a really important distinction, because when we talk about our thoughts influencing reality, it can get confusing. On one side, you've got the science-backed idea of manifestation. This is exactly what we've been talking about. You set a clear goal, which primes your RAS to notice opportunities. You take action, you rehearse it in your mind, and you make it happen. It's all about your own agency. But on the other side, you have the law of attraction, which is pretty much universally considered pseudoscience. That's the idea that your thoughts send out vibrations, and the universe magically sends stuff back to you. The real danger there is that it can lead to inaction, just thinking isn't enough, and even worse, it can lead to victim blaming. If something bad happens, it must be because you didn't have positive enough thoughts.
And just to be super clear, the law of attraction often tries to sound scientific by borrowing terms from quantum physics, but it gets them completely wrong. The observer effect, for instance, just means that the act of measuring a tiny particle with a device changes it. It has nothing to do with a person's consciousness watching something. And quantum entanglement is a real thing for subatomic particles, but there's zero evidence our thoughts can get entangled with a new car or a winning lottery ticket. The bottom line is, our minds change our reality through attention and action, not through cosmic magic. Okay, so we've seen how our brains filter reality and how our beliefs can shape our lives. But I want you to buckle up, because we're about to take a giant leap into an idea that is so much more radical. What if your brain isn't just filtering reality? What if it's generating the whole show from the inside out? This quote from the philosopher Andy Clark just perfectly nails this mind-bending idea. He says, our entire conscious life is basically a controlled hallucination. Your brain isn't a passive window that reality flows through. It's an active simulator that's constantly guessing what's out there. The only reason it's a controlled hallucination is because your senses are constantly fact-checking the simulation just enough to make sure you don't walk into traffic. But the experience itself, that's generated by you first.
The scientific theory behind this is called predictive processing, and it flips everything we thought we knew about perception completely upside down. See, the old model was that everything is bottom-up. Light hits your eye, that signal goes to your brain, and after a bunch of processing, you finally realize, oh, that's a cup of coffee. Predictive processing says it's the other way around. It's top-down. Your brain, based on your memories and the context you're in, is always predicting, I'm probably about to see a cup of coffee. It generates the experience of the coffee and only uses the light from your eyes to check if its prediction was right.
So here's the nuts and bolts of it. Your brain is constantly making forecasts, hypotheses about the world. What you experience as reality is actually that forecast. The raw data from your senses is only used to spot a prediction error. If your eyes see what your brain predicted they'd see, your brain basically says, yep, all good, and doesn't waste energy on it. It only pays attention when there's a surprise, when the data doesn't match the prediction. This is also how things like the placebo effect work. If your brain strongly predicts that a sugar pill will stop your headache, it can give that prediction more weight than the actual pain signals, and poof, the pain is gone. Your reality is the brain's best guess.
Okay, let's just pause and think about the implications here. If we are all running our own unique reality simulators built from a lifetime of different memories and experiences, what does that do to the idea of a single, shared, objective reality? This leads to some really, really deep questions.
Seriously, think about this for a second. If my prediction machine was built on a totally different life than yours, different childhood, different culture, different joys, different traumas, is it even possible for us to be generating the same reality? When you and I both look at the color red, are we having the same internal experience? Or is my red built on a foundation of completely different predictions than your red? Are we living in the same world at all?
Well, there are kind of two ways to look at this. The standard view of predictive processing says, yes, there's one base reality out there, but our brains just have different models or interpretations of it. We both see the same rainstorm, but maybe you feel cozy and I feel gloomy. But then, there's a more radical view, sometimes called the micro-reality hypothesis. This suggests that our realities might be fundamentally structurally different. It's not just a different interpretation. Our minds might be building worlds with their own private physics, where the very rules of cause and effect are unique to us. We might not even be living in the same world to begin with.
Now, I know all of this can sound a little unsettling, maybe like we're just trapped in our own heads. But it's actually the most empowering idea in the world. Because if reality is something that is constructed, it means we can learn to influence how it's constructed. It means we can become the architect.
Here's the most important takeaway of all this. You are already doing this. Right now, your brain is filtering, predicting, and shaping your behavior all on autopilot. You are an unintentional creator. So the goal isn't to learn some new magic trick to create reality. The goal is simply to become aware of the process that's already happening and to shift from being an unconscious creator to a conscious one. And the great news is we have incredible science-backed tools to do exactly that. Things like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, teach you how to catch those automatic negative predictions your brain makes and challenge them to see if they're actually true. Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, helps you step back and just notice your brain's predictions without getting tangled up in them so you can choose your actions based on your values, not your brain's guesses. And of course, you can directly program your RAS by setting clear, powerful intentions. You just give your brain's bouncer a new guest list.
In the end, what all of this science really points to is a deep, profound sense of personal power. Look, you might not be the author of every single thing that happens in your life, but you are, without a doubt, the editor of the story you tell yourself about it. You can adjust the filter, you can update the predictions, you can choose the actions that write the next page. Your experience machine is on, and it is running right now. So the only real question left is, what story are you going to create?